What wouldn't a person do for fame and power? Well, I'm sure many have a boundary on what it is they are willing to succeed in their field of work. Salvatore Perone, a rundown aspiring designer living in the Big Apple, New York, took his ambitions of becoming a worldwide known designer to a despicable lengths. Having been frustrated for years of not catching a break in the fashion industry, Perone came up with a genius plan to get his brand off the ground. Only, it's not what you expect. If you are excited to see how ambition can really turn into something so dark, keep watching, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And welcome to True Stories. Salvatore Perone, as many people, had a dream. He wanted to become a designer. Perone may have made a modest living as an independent apparel salesman, but he had big dreams of making a name for himself in the industry. In fact, Perone, who worked as a mercantile middleman, peddling his wares from a duffel bag, trademarked his own name in 2007 as part of an attempt to start a clothing line, suggesting he had high hopes for his future. Talk about self-confidence, trademarking your own name. Well, maybe he would have had a shot at his dream if he didn't take on a killing spree. Salvatore, at one point, owned a successful apparel business. At this time of his career, he had thousands of dollars in the bank, but by the time of his trial, he was down to his last dollar. Salvatore was not lacking in the wife department. He lived with his lovely wife Maria. Salvatore seemed to be having it all, a booming business and a lovely wife. In 1985, Maria purchased a Staten Island property that had long been a neighborhood gem envied by many. The couple began their renovation and add-on plans. However, the relationship between the two began to crumble, and soon, there was only one remedy to all the fighting: the couple had a divorce. This was perhaps the catalyst that would lead to Salvatore's path and murder. When they split, Salvatore turned to hitting the bottle, and the property quickly fell into a state of disrepair. Once beautiful, the building was now looking like an abandoned house, a completely run-down house. Perone then started dating a woman in Brooklyn. He halted all work on the home and began staying at the woman's home part-time. As many might hope, no one should have been able to live in the seemingly unlivable home. But no, after his days out, Perone would come back and sleep in his basement on a dirty old mattress. Of course, Perone was now a thorn in the neighbor's back. One neighbor told the Staten Island Advance that Perone was a nasty piece of work. The neighbor said she and several others fought with him about the state of his home, which racked up a total of 14 complaints with the City Department of Buildings. Perhaps to ease their frustration with Perone and make light of the situation, neighbors began calling Perone Son of Sal, presumably after the notorious 1970s serial killer Son of Sam, for his odd behavior and combative personality. Little did they know that their nickname was about to become a reality. Some might even say that maybe Perone self-actualized. But this just shows how the neighbors truly disliked Perone, this no more greater sign than being given the name of killer. Perone was no stranger to the law. Aside from the complaints filed by his neighbors, Perone was previously arrested. According to public records, in 2001, Perone was charged in Pennsylvania on a litany of offenses including stalking, burglary, harassment, and public drunkenness. Still, none of those crimes exactly suggested he was capable of murder. It seems that things might have gotten too much for Perone, and soon, he began to spiral. He had failed as a designer and had no dollar to his name. This is when he came up with a genius plan to get his name on the media and achieve his long-desired goal of fame. In the summer of 2012, Perone set the motion of his despicable genius plan. He began committing his most heinous acts yet: murder. On July 6, Mohammed Jabili, 65, was found dead with a single gunshot wound to the neck in his Bare Ridge clothing store. Less than 1 month later, on August 2, Isaac Catter, 59, was found shot and stabbed inside his store in Bensonhurst. Soon after, Rahmatullah Vahidapur, 78, died of gunshot wounds to his head, face, and chest in his Prospect Lefferts Gardens clothing shop on November 16. Each murder was committed near closing time, and .22 caliber shell casings were recovered at the crime scenes. Their bodies were concealed with clothing and other items from the stores. But still, no one knew who was responsible for these acts and why exactly they were being committed. The only guide the authorities had was a man they called John Doe Duffel Bag, who was spotted on security footage near 2 of the murders. On the other side of town, after Perone had finished what would be his last murder, he went out partying, not a normal behavior for someone who had just committed murder. He was oddly calm. His girlfriend would later tell the court, "He seemed the same, I don't see any change." According to the girlfriend, Perron accompanied her home after the club and spent the next 4 days at her Brooklyn pad before cops finally nabbed him. The authorities made a call that would be crucial to their investigation. They released the duffel bag man photo to the public. After releasing a photograph of the footage to the public, New York Police Department officials were led to Perron and questioned him on November 20, 2012. The following day, a .22 caliber rifle and 3 knives, one of which appeared to have blood on it, were discovered in a duffel bag found in his girlfriend's Brooklyn apartment. While his fingerprints were found on the weapon, and ballistic testing determined the shell casings retrieved from each crime scene were fired from the same gun, Perron maintained he was framed by a business associate. "I only have one question: what kind of people does Perron work with that would frame him for murder?" But wait till you hear how exactly Perron claimed he was framed while being questioned in court. Shortly thereafter, he was arrested on 3 counts of murder and 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon. In a state of mania, he allegedly told police that the killing spree has to do with a plan to promote world peace. Perron was deemed fit to stand trial, and when court proceeding began in 2016, he took the stand in his own defense, claiming he never shot the 3 shopkeepers. "I've waited for this moment for 3 years. I want everyone to know the truth," Perron told the jury. "I was set up." It seemed like Perron had been preparing for a role, and finally the time had come. He came up with the most bizarre story. Come on, he had 3 years, and you can't believe what he came up with. "I was set up," Salvatore Perron, 67, told jurors during his baffling testimony in Brooklyn Supreme Court. The erratic Perron, who has been prone to courtroom outbursts, claimed he'd been framed by a man named Michael Bila, who he said was an Iranian national who he'd done business with in the past and had given him the black duffel bag that contained the murder weapons, a sawed-off rifle and knife. "At least that's what he told me his name is," Perron said. "I know for sure that's not his real name. That's a fictitious name." Investigators found the bag, which prosecutors have dubbed Perron's kill kit, inside his girlfriend's apartment. But this was not the end. Perron had an answer for everything. You could tell enough time to come up with an elaborate story that even he himself believed. Perron admitted that he'd purchased the gun, but suggested that Bila had stolen it in 2010 when he left it alone in his apartment. On Sunday, November 18, Michael Bila came over to East 14th Street and gave me the duffel bag, and as we all know there was a rifle in the duffel bag, he said, but claiming he'd never opened it. "But honestly, why would you take a bag from someone and never open it?" Perron conceded that he'd been caught on camera near the murder scene of Isaac Catter, toting a black duffel bag. But that bag was filled with clothes he was trying to sell, he insisted. "I did own that duffel bag," he said. "Of course I owned that duffel bag. I own maybe 4 or 5 duffel bags." Perron testified that on July 6, the day he allegedly killed his first victim, Bay Ridge store owner Mohammed Jabeli, he was at a dinner party and nowhere near the murder scene. Throughout the trial, Perron made frequent outbursts and even fired his legal representation. This is believed to be an attempt to delaying the trial when he knew they were going to find him guilty. Ultimately, 2 days later, he was found guilty of 3 counts of second-degree murder. Perron was not in the courtroom when his verdict was read because he had been thrown out earlier for another display of disorderly conduct, reported. He was sentenced to 75 years to life on March 4, 2016. He is currently serving his sentence at the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York, but of course, still maintaining his claim that he is innocent and was framed. Well, is Salvatore Perron really innocent? We'll let you decide. Let's discuss in the comments section. We've come to the end. If you enjoyed, give the video a thumbs up and don't forget subscribe. Till next time.